listening to the Intrepid radio program with Scotty Roberts. Intelligent Talk.
Hey folks, welcome to the program. Happy Wednesday evening. This is Scotty Roberts. I'm your host on here. I can talk. I talk for a living, and look what I do. Thank you, Sam. He grabbed my headset for me. What an inauspicious way to start the program. This is Scotty Roberts. I'm your host. You're listening to the Intrepid radio program right here on the Odyssey Radio Network, where we're not broadcasting tonight, but where you can go and hear a great rerun of the audio version of this show. They're playing those. You can go over to ODYSY1.com, see all the goodness that's Odyssey Radio, and of course you can listen to the archives that they're playing until we're out of the Makeshift Studio, which is where we are right now, in a camper somewhere in Louisiana. And, well, there's a city here. I just don't really know. I still don't have the lay of the land after having been here for 3 months. I know the roads and the little streets and stuff, but I couldn't tell you much about Louisiana. But I'm going back home to Wisconsin, to the home studio this weekend. And so starting next week, we'll be broadcasting once again from the home studio, no longer the Makeshift Studio, in my makeshift life here in Louisiana. And of course, if you're listening to this anywhere but here, you can come over to my YouTube channel. That's youtube.com/Mr. Scotty Roberts. And you can find archived here about 500 different shows that we have done since the inception of this version of the Intrepid radio program over on Odyssey almost 2 years ago. And so we broadcast 5 nights a week, and I have worked very hard to not miss too many nights, although I've had a few. I've had probably a week's worth of nights that we have missed, and I've had a couple of days of not feeling well, or where even last week, I took a little vacation day. I came in and I said, I just do not feel like broadcasting tonight. And so I took a day off. And so I appreciate everybody who comes in here. I appreciate your time. And I want to make your loyalty, your time to this program worth your while. So I work very hard to bring you good content. Tonight, we're going to have Miss Sarah Soderlund on the show. Mrs. Soderlund, she goes by. Mrs. Sarah Soderlund. She's married to a wonderful man, and she took his name, which I see absolutely nothing wrong. In olden days, what did that mean when a woman took a man's name? It was almost like property. The man owned the woman, so to speak. It wasn't slavery, but it was something where a woman took the man's name because they were considered to be the property of the man. Well, nowadays, when a woman takes a man's name, I think that's a pretty cool thing. It shows a lot of loyalty. It shows a lot of love. It shows the way they feel about that man. And sometimes the man will take the woman's name. And of course, I got somebody calling me right smack in the middle of the show. So I'm going to shut that up. I'm sorry. I forgot to turn off my ringer for the night. I'll do that right now. And I think I got it. And so Sarah takes her husband's name. Sometimes men take their wives' names. Sometimes they hyphenate the last name. Now, if Rainey and I had done the hyphenated last name thing, we would both be Scott and Rainey Olson Roberts, because Rainey is an Olson. And so there you go. There's just a little side rail there. If anybody's got any ideas about that, you can certainly let me know. So Sarah Soderlund is going to be here, but she won't be here until about midway through the show. So anticipate that we are going to go quite a bit later than the 10 o'clock cutoff. And we can do that because we're not on Odyssey Radio tonight. And when we did that on Odyssey, if we wanted to go late, we just did an extra show after the show where we went into the live stream. So all of that to say, thank you for being here. And hold on to your butts, because Sarah Soderlund's going to come back in. She was here Sunday. If you missed Sunday, Rainey was gone. She had to go do massages And so as a last minute, I kind of said, wow, I wonder if I could get Sarah to come in as my surrogate wife on Sunday, which she was more than happy to do. And we talked on Sunday, but she will be here now tonight. And she's going to talk about our topic. We've been talking about the Fae and the fairy folk and spirit realm, the fairies of the spirit realm. And I like to almost pronounce it like I spell it, the Faeries, the fairies, as opposed to the fairies. Now, maybe you didn't hear any distinction there, but I saw the spelling in my head as I was saying the two different words. The fairies, Fairies or Fairy, those fairies are the things of storybooks. And you can use that word. But the Fae, known as the fair or a fairy, Fairy, as we've been talking about, are the beings, the elemental spirit beings of the mythical world. And so we've been talking about that all week. And it's now, is it no, it's not Wednesday. I said happy Wednesday, everybody. It's Thursday. Wow, my days are melting together. Tomorrow, we're not even going to get out of here till later in the day. I hate driving at night, but apparently that's what we're going to be doing. So we're leaving here probably late in the afternoon tomorrow, heading toward the Minneapolis-St. Paul area, and of course home across the river in New Richmond, Wisconsin. So now, by the way, if you are not a member of this broadcast, you can do that right here on my YouTube channel. If you look right below this window, there should be a little join button. And on that join button, just click on that and it'll say, it'll bring up a pop-up window. It'll come right over the broadcast, so it won't stop what you're listening to. If you're not a member and you'd like to become a member, I encourage you to go click the join button, and it'll pop up a window with 3 different ways you can become a member of this podcast. And if you are a member already and you've been missing some of the perks, well, once I am back in the home studio, we're going to pick those up in full tilt again. And we'll probably start doing the coffee, the 6 a.m. Central Standard Time, which is 7 a.m. out east, which is 4 a.m. out west. We'll start doing the coffee shows a couple of times a week as well. So I just want to say hey to everybody. The first name I saw when I looked over, Durwood, welcome to the show. Good to have you here. Hey, Barbie D, nice to see you as well. Brother Doug Stack. Yes, we leave tomorrow, Doug. That means no more live shows, just the pre-recorded live show. No, I think I'm going to work on something because Russ over at Odyssey Radio asked me, did you know you can broadcast live over here on the network as well? And I've just never shifted things from my YouTube over there. And, there's a simple reason for that. I can monetize my shows here, which helps bring a few dollars into the coffers to pay for the software, to pay for stuff and junk and all of that. And I don't want you to think I'm making millions of dollars off of anybody here, because I'm not. If I was, I wouldn't be here in a camper in my makeshift life down in Louisiana. So, but it does throw some dollars into the coffers, and it helps us out, helps further the cause here. And if you like the show, please pass it on. That's one of the first things I say is, if you like the show, pass it on. And if you like it enough, come on over and be a member. And there's good things coming. So Barbie D, Durwood, Mary Wins, good to see you. You're listening while you work. Well, fantastic. I'm glad that you're here. Steve Clark, how are you doing? And Field Guy is here, as always, the stalwart, ever-present Field Guy. Siani Reese, good to see you. I want to congratulate you. I don't know if I'm supposed to say anything about it or not. I'll leave her to tell you why I'm congratulating her. But congrats to you. I'm happy for you. And Teresa Dantone, good to see you. My brother Ryan Gale. Lots of great Civil War historic sites between Louisiana and Wisconsin. That's very true. But I think we have to slide over to Dallas first, which is about 5 hours west of us. And then we're going up north from Dallas. Only because, now if I were with the family, my wife and my kids, and we were just driving it, I'd go the route it's actually Minneapolis is a perfectly straight line up from Lake Charles. go straight north, but you're on all the back roads and stuff until you hit the major interstate much further north. And so I was told it would take a lot longer to go that way. So I don't know about going 5 hours west to make a faster trip to go straight north. I don't know. I don't get it. But then again, I don't do math and I don't do geometry. So Susie Q, good to see you in the chat room tonight. Elder Barry, nice to have you as always. Johan Dancing Gypsy, you're not a member? You can be. That's the beautiful thing. To become a member of this broadcast, it's either $2 a month, $5 a month, or $15 a month, depending on whatever you'd like to do. And you know what? If you don't become a member, if you don't want to, if you can't, that's okay too. I'm just glad you're all here. You too, Johan. And who else we got in here? Let's see. We got Matt Finn, Master Finn. Good to see you. He says, if you're not a member, shame on you. Well, thank you. I wasn't going to say that, but I'm glad you did. So Master Finn, welcome. He is my first mate. Arr. And I'm looking to see if I've missed anybody along the way here tonight. So far, no. Looks like I've hit everybody that's present in the chat room. We have more people that listen, by the way, than actually appear in the chat room. And if you're listening tonight, hey, Steph, I missed you there. Good to see you, Steph. If you're listening and you're not in the chat room, that's okay. But you know what? It's okay to pop into the chat room, too. Make your presence known. Get to know some of these people that are here and interact in the chat room. That's kind of a fun thing to do. And before I go too much further, it's Michelle McFree here. McFreedom! She's on 7% battery. Well, I'm pretty sure you'll be able to get 7% of the show while you're on 7% battery. And so welcome to the show. And Doug, I think I said hi to you. I think I did. Yeah, I did. And so welcome, everybody. And I want to say before we get into the topic, as long as I'm talking like marketing and advertising and all of that stuff, come on over to my Etsy page. And you can see a lot of the shirts that I've designed. Well, everyone there is something I've designed, either for one of the episodes on this program, or it's political stuff, or other kinds of fun stuff, and patriotic stuff, some of it, which I don't rank patriotic in the same category as political. I look at things like, things the founders said and all of that. I put that on shirts. Things Teddy Roosevelt said, and so on. So go on over, take a look, and the Etsy page. Thank you, Master Finn. He just put up the link for the Etsy page. And you can also just go to my website, scottallenroberts.com. You can see what I'm all about. If you don't know much about me and you want to know why should I listen to this guy, go over to my website, scottallenroberts.com. Click on the About link. And I've got a bio in there with tons of pictures. So if you don't like reading, I got all kinds of pictures in there for you. Me, my family, my wife, my kids, all the stuff I do and so on. So come on over and take a peek. And you can also, on the main page, you can click on the Etsy link there. You can click on, what other links do I have in there? I have Penman Hats is in there. You can click on Penman Hats. That's not my company. Some people think it is. It's my good friend John Penman, who makes the hats I wear. And probably the best hat maker out there. He started, I've mentioned this before, he was a disabled firefighter 15, 16 years ago, and looking for work that he could do, he started making the Indiana Jones hat. He wanted to learn how to make one. And he learned from the guys who made them from the movies, for the movies. And he started that, and he is meticulously hand makes these hats, hand stitches them, and they're glorious hats. I've shown them off before. And he's branched into other kinds of hats, other styles. I wear the Casablanca. It's his replica of Humphrey Bogart's hat from the movie of the same name. So you can go over and take a look at Penman Hats, Penman hats.com, penmanhats.com. You can also find him on Facebook. There. Now, I've spent pretty much the first 15 minutes of this show talking and doing my own little self-advertisements. I was criticized once a couple of years ago for one of my shows. I think it was on King David. How somebody came into the show and said, "You spent the first 12 minutes advertising, talking about your own stuff." I found that very disappointing. I'm like, well, you know, when you put together over 500 hours of this program that's filled and rife with meaty content, I think I can take a few minutes every now and then to do a little shameless self-promotion. And actually, too, I'm stalling just a little bit. I'm using my time because we've got SARAH SODERLUND coming in at the bottom of the hour. And that made me think of doing this. I'm going to, in the chat room, I'm going to paste the link. If anybody would like to come in here and speak your mind, we'll probably do it a little bit before and a little bit after Sarah is here. We're going to go longer tonight, folks, by the way, past 10 o'clock. And so if you want to call in, you want to talk and share your mind, come on in. We've got time now. I could get into the topic if I wanted to a little bit, but I'd kind of like to wait for Sarah to come in. We're going to talk about her experiences as a forensic psychologist and somebody who deals with people with troubled minds and so on and all that. She's going to talk a little bit about, I see Doug Stack just came into the wings. Hang on, Doug. I'll get to you in a moment. I got to plug my ears in so we don't get feedback into the live show. And so Sarah's going to talk about, she had mentioned to me the first night I had posted that we were going to do a show on encounters with the Fae a couple of nights ago. And it was just yesterday. And she said something about she's got some great stories and some great experiences that she'd like to talk about. So that's what she's going to do with us tonight. There is Doug Stack. Let's bring him into the stream. Hey, Doug Stack, how you doing? You're very dark. I'm assuming you are outside by your fire.
You see the fire?
Yeah, I see the fire. There it is.
Of course I'm outside by the fire.
Of course.
Where else would I be?
Yeah, exactly. Well, you could be watching TV, but who'd want to do that when you have a nice fire outside?
Look, if I watch TV, TV's on in the background for me. I don't like TV.
Sure, I understand.
I honestly wish you could have had the time to come down and sit by the fire one night, but I completely understand why you're going
Me
back.
too.
And
well, we thought originally we were going to be here for another month at the minimum, but up until the end of May. But they all decided to say, hey, let's pull up the stakes. And Pete, who owns this company, lives up in Minneapolis, well, north of Minneapolis. He's up by Leslie Holker, just past St. Cloud in Minnesota. And I think he's kind of like, yeah, he wants to do some things up in the Minnesota area. So might be doing some work for him up there. I'm definitely going to be engaging my art business back home.
Yeah, well, I mean, it kind of sucks that you guys didn't do what you expected to do while down here. But at the same time, you know, it gave Sam a lot of experience.
It did.
I know that. And he kind of knows what to expect if he wants to go into that kind of field now.
Right. And, it gives him something to do. And, also back home, for those of you interested in following my personal life and my family life, we've got a good friend back home who is the scout master, I believe, of the Cub Scouts, where Flynn and Rowan and Ellery were doing scouting. And he has been 30 years with the big tool and die company. And I talked to him about jobs for Sam before this opportunity even came up, strangely, about a week or two before this. And he said, if Sam wants a job, we got one right now. You can come on in right now. So I think Sam's going to make some connections with him and see what he can do up there. And by the way, Doug, I want to do this while I've got you on air, even though this has nothing to do with you personally, per se, because I'm thinking about it. If there's anybody in the Western Wisconsin area that's listening to this show, some of you from back home. Sam is going to be looking for a place to live, be it a good room in a house somewhere or a good apartment to connect it to a house somewhere. We're already looking into some options with him. But if somebody has a place for Sam that he could rent from you, that'd be fantastic, because he can stay with us, but we don't have an extra room for him. That's the problem. We are already busting out the seams at our home. And so Sam is going to be on the sofa for a few days at least until we find him a place up there. So that's coming.
And I mean, and I can vouch for Sam. He's a good kid and, you know, a hard worker.
He's a little screwy in the head, but that's because he's my kid.
He's fun to be around, though.
He certainly is. It's been fun. We've been together, living close quarters for 3 months, my son and I, in this camper. And Doug, you've been in this camper. It's not small, but it's not like a sprawling house or anything. You know, we've got the nice slide outs here and things, and Sam's got his own room up front and mine in the back. But we've gotten along just fine. And, you know, maybe it's because it's my son. I don't know. We don't get on each other's nerves all that often. It's usually when we get on each other's nerves, it's because something else has put us on edge. And we're like, shut up. I don't want to talk to you.
And one thing I got to say about that is Sam is definitely blessed to be with you so closely for the last 3 months. I mean, I still have my father, and I don't know if it would have been a good thing or a bad thing if I lived in close quarters with him like that. But it was, you know, when my dad goes, which can happen whenever, you know, we can either one of us go. But I'm gonna miss those times.
Yeah.
And you guys had a perfect opportunity for the last 3 months to really.
Yes, we did. Now, 3 months isn't a lifetime, but it certainly is a good time for us to have reconnected. I love this. When I was offered this, I said right away, I said, you know what? My son might be moving back up to Wisconsin to live near us and looking for a job. Would you mind if I bring him down too? And he said, bring him. The more the merrier. And so we've had a pretty good time. And wait, before we go further with that, Gaza Cav over there in New Zealand, she's saying to Teresa, wait till you see me running around naked in my garden. So, folks, you got to push it for videos.
Gaza's a guy, and he's a New Zealand.
Oh, he's a guy.
Kiwi. Yeah, but he's a Kiwi, but he's in Australia, and you definitely should.
Australia.
Yeah, you definitely should check out his videos on YouTube, because
I'll check out his videos. Gaza, sorry about that. For some reason in my head, I thought you were a woman. Nothing you've said. It's just maybe because I haven't seen you say anything else, contrary to my initial impression. So sorry about that, brother.
and he did all.
I don't want to suggest that he doesn't look good naked in his garden, but he probably wouldn't be a draw for me. So no offense.
He told me that in his comments, and I said, you know what, I can do without the nakedness, but I can definitely look at the garden.
Hey, David Castle, welcome to the show, and Gaza, welcome as well. I didn't say that, so it's good to see you here. Good to see some friends coming in, some new friends coming in. And so, Doug,
and another thing.
Yeah.
I had the luxury of speaking with Steve today.
On
the phone.
Yeah,
man,
I've talked to Steve on the phone.
It felt like we were there for. We were talking for maybe an hour. It turns out we talked for almost 3 hours.
Oh, that's pretty cool. I talked to Steve for a little bit, and I was supposed to get to him on Sunday this last week, and I totally spaced it. I was just out of it on Sunday. And hey, we got Field Guy here too. Good to see you, Field Guy. Welcome
to the Louisiana connection.
Look at this. Okay. Everybody on the screen right now, folks, is in Louisiana.
And all three in different locations.
That's right, different corners of Louisiana. And for those of you overseas, Louisiana, if you don't, I'm sure you know it's a state here, but it's a big state, and it's big compared to other things. It's bigger than Great Britain. So, and we're way down here in the south of the United States on the Gulf and the coast, the Gulf of Mexico. So again, we're just killing a little time until our guest comes in tonight, and she should be in pretty soon. And toward the bottom of the hour, yeah, it's 9:27, so she should be showing up. And guys, take no offense at this. When Sarah comes, I'm dropping you two like hot potatoes. So you might be mid-sentence, and I'll say, "Hey, bye."
Bye.
So, what do you got to say, Field Guy? How you doing today?
Better than yesterday.
Well, that's good. That's like evolutionary.
Sure. Why not?
Every day is better than the next.
What's on your mind tonight, Field Guy?
Just mostly just listening to the show last night and the night before, and I hadn't fallen asleep through the show lately, so that's a plus.
Well, that's good. That's a plus. I haven't either. So that's pretty good.
I used to sleep on people's panels all the time. I'd be in mid-sentence talking, and I'd be out.
Yeah, hell yeah. Teresa said, who was it? Said Scott Allen. Here we go. There's my fire. I got some fire lit. There you go. So Doug and I have fires going. Where's your fire, Field Guy?
Where's my fire?
Where's your fire?
He didn't eat tacos tonight.
Boom. My fire's out. Not going to last long. So, well, what do you guys think about this whole thing of the topic we've been talking about the Fae and the fairy folk? How does that strike you? I know for me, when I talk about some of these things, what kicks in is that, I start talking about the spirit beings, the elemental beings, and you start running across things like, the dwarves or the leprechauns or the trolls and you're like, do I really believe those things all? Sarah Soderlund just messaged me and said 5 minutes away. She's gonna go heat up her coffee and come on in. So we got about 5 minutes to kill.
My thing is, I believe in it. Just because being a truck driver and driving at night, I've seen a lot of things. I was joking the other day, said I saw something that looked like a garden gnome, but I think I was high.
Oh,
I don't know.
I could have sworn I saw this big, hairy, giant beast, but I was high at the time, so maybe I didn't.
But like I said before,
hey Audrey, by the way, welcome.
With that whole situation, I've never seen them personally, but I believe they can exist. And
okay.
That's what I got.
Okay. Oh, I thought you were going to say more about that. How about you, Field Guy? Now, you say that you don't really adhere to or believe that there's a God and so on. How about spirit beings like this? What do you think of spirit being? That issue?
Well, I'm sure there is. I believe in ghost, but I kind of think it's the same thing in the same kind of realm.
Okay.
I mean, it's all supernatural.
Yeah, it's all supernatural to you.
But I haven't seen any of these fae or any of that stuff.
Sure.
I mean, not that I want to, but anything that brings me good luck, I'll be glad to see it. I guess,
sure. See, now I don't think I don't think. Go ahead, Doug.
I was gonna say it's definitely an interesting topic, and like you were talking about how if somebody sees a ghost, that they may be scared. I've seen plenty of ghosts in my in my old house and just around. And the only thing that scared me was that one time I saw that shadow figure, and I knew it wasn't a person because it went from a crouching position, jumped directly over a 6-foot fence in a crouching position, and no human being could do that. That scared the daylights out of me.
I've heard stories like that, and I tend to hear other people's stories, and the first thing that comes on is my bullshit alarm. And in the back of my head, I'm like, oh, bullshit. And because it didn't happen to me, I tend to be one of those guys that, I'll hear people tell stories, and I'm like, is that what you really saw? Is that what you really did? And I'll pick it apart, only because I'm skeptical enough to not believe everything I hear. Yet I have had some of the strangest experiences out there, and seen a lot of these. I've never seen a Bigfoot. I have never seen a cryptid that I know of. I've never seen the Fae or a fairy person. I think I've experienced their influence, but I don't think I've seen them. So last night we talked about how to draw them and attract them to you. And I don't think that's a dangerous thing, because it's not like saying, I want to attract the demonic to me or the dark force. It's not what you're doing. You're saying you want to not open yourself up, but you want to open up to what's out there. You go to your favorite spot in a wooded place or a place that's away from an urban center, and you get comfortable. You go to the place that's comfortable with you, and you make it known. And you go back there repeatedly to the place that draws you there. And there's usually a reason you're being drawn to a place. And again, Teresa could speak to this a lot. I'd like to have her on. Maybe tomorrow we'll see if we can get Teresa to come in and talk a little bit about her experiences and what she thinks about that.
You're going to be driving tomorrow.
Oh, that's right. I'm going to be driving. I won't be here tomorrow night. I'm glad you said that, Doug. We're going to be on the road tomorrow night, so there is no program tomorrow night. And probably not on Sunday either, because we're probably going to, take a little break in the driving. Plan on getting in maybe late on Sunday morning or early Sunday afternoon into Minnesota. And we've got to drive up to Pete's place and drop off the trailers. And then Rainey's got to come and pick us up. So
that means me and Doug can do one then.
Hey,
there you go. You and Doug can take over for Sunday.
Maybe on Sunday. It depends if I can break away from the family.
Yep.
But definitely Monday or Tuesday, Field, we can get together and do a show.
Yeah, it works.
All right. That sounds fantastic. Well, guys, Sarah's not here yet, but she's going to be momentarily. So I'm going to let you two brothers go. And I want to thank you for calling into the show and just helping me kill a little time until Sarah got here. It's not like it was oddball, like, so what do we do now that we're all here? And, gosh, what time is it? We didn't have to do any of that, but I appreciate you guys coming in and talking. And
a good filibuster.
What? Oh yeah,
filibuster.
Yep, that's right. While it's still legal.
Have a good trip. Have a safe trip up there, and
thank you.
Look, when you get to Dallas, just slap Rocky on the back of the head for me, please.
If we're going through Dallas, I want to see Rocky a bit. But if we don't arrive there till 10, 11 at night, I don't know. We'll have to see if he's around.
Oh yeah, he's a lightweight. He goes to bed at 8:30.
Yeah, something like that. All right, guys.
Get him on and wake him up.
There you are. Hopefully, I could see him if we pass through there. You guys have a good night. Thanks for calling, and see you over in the chat room. See you, Doug. All right, Field Guide. See you later. All right. So now we've got the stream open for Sarah to get here. I could have had them all on at the same time, but it would have been crowded. And no offense to Doug and Field Guy, but I want to clear myself of those guys so I can prep myself for Sarah. Now, I know I've mentioned this before when we've talked to Sarah. Maybe it was on Rocky's show that I mentioned this more than a year. But I met Sarah back in, I want to say 2007 or 2008, while at the Stanley Hotel in Estes Park, Colorado. You've all heard of the Stanley Hotel connected to paranormal adventures. And that's where I met her. And here she is now. As a matter of fact, I'm going to bring her in. Hey, Sarah, how you doing?
Hello, how are you?
Have you there? I was just trying to recap for everybody in the minutes it was going to take you to come in, how we met, when we met, why I even know you. And so Sarah and I
know each other.
How we know each other.
I know, right? How in the world?
How in the world did that happen? Well, we met at the Stanley Hotel at a Darkness Radio event with Dave Schrader, who now has the show The Holzer Files.
Right. We've been with him from Paranormal State to the Ghost Adventures to the Holzer Files. All of our famous friends, Scotty. We just have the Midas touch.
I know. There's something about that. You know, it's kind of interesting when you see somebody like Dave, who's had Darkness Radio for 25 years, something like that. And he was well known in the paranormal world for that. But he's in a sense, you could say he paid his dues to get where he is now. He's got his own show with Alexandra Holzer. And I can't remember the names of the psychic and his other guy that's on
Cindy.
And that's an interesting show. I really like their format compared to other paranormal shows I've seen.
Yeah. So I do like it. I'll be honest. I don't watch a lot of television. I just don't have a lot of time to watch TV anymore. It seems it's been a long time. But when I do, however, so for anybody who we don't know each other, if you don't know me and I don't know you, then shame on us. But working in parapsychology, Hans Holzer is kind of the father of parapsychology, is kind of his coined term. Yes. And Hans is Alexandra's father. And so I was a huge fan of Hans. I have a lot of his books. And I was just talking with Alexandra the other day.
Books that I bought before
Well, they find me at thrift stores. It's really weird. Like, I swear I can walk into an antique store. Doesn't matter where I'm at. And I'll look over and they'll be there and they'll be like 50 cents. So I usually buy them always. Sometimes
that's where I found it. Was Hans's book, Ghosts I've Met.
Yes. And, they're just like in piles somewhere.
Yes.
But his daughter, Alexandra, she's always been very interested, but she's a mother of a lot of children as well. And so she's very busy and she works kind of behind the scenes. She's so beautiful. She's so striking. She has that like Romany, just beautiful look to her. But she, she's kind of like me. I don't know if we're necessarily TV friendly because we're so blunt. We're not easily scripted. And she's on the show occasionally, but when her father passed, I did a radio show kind of interview with her and like thanking her father. And that's when I started connecting with her. And gosh, that was like 15 years ago.
I was going to say Hans Holzer died about 15 years ago.
And so she'd always hoped to see his things get revived in a good way. And as far, and so far it's going well with that show. So I'm excited to see it. I'm just excited.
I haven't talked much to Alexandra. We cross paths every now and then in social media. And I remember the first time I met her, it was at a Darkness Radio event. And I saw her sitting there.
She's fantastic.
I was like, how you doing?
She's that was so striking.
She is a very striking.
She looks like Cher. That's who she reminds me of. She's kind of like the Cher of the paranormal and yet famous, but she doesn't have to do anything. And she shouldn't because she's just...
I want to say it was on the Queen Mary at a Darkness Radio event, but I'm not positive of that. But I enjoy their show. I think it's very well done. The format, folks, if you haven't watched it, go watch Dave Schrader, Alexandra Holzer, and Cindy, and the other guy. I can't think of his name. That's horrible.
I don't know. I know. But, I don't know him.
Go check out their show. I think you'll
but go watch it. It's a great show. Yeah.
Yes. But let's get on to the topic that we talk about tonight. I was just telling a little bit about how we met. We met at the Stanley Hotel. We did several events together, and Darkness Radio events, a lot of them. And so we just got to know each other. I remember sitting up one night till all hours of the wee hours of the morning, just she and I sitting in the fireplace room, Sarah and I, talking, getting to know each other and comparing notes, having a good time talking. And I don't remember how late we went, but I think we were both laying on the floor in there. The room was cleared out on the carpeted floor in there, and we're just laying on the floor looking at the ceiling talking about stuff. And so
fairies and ghosts and aliens and pirates and past lives and good books and just all the things, you know, like when you have those good conversations and you look up and you go, wow, it's been 6 hours. And you think,
know,
oh, goodness.
There are friends you get to know over time and you accumulate that knowledge. And it was almost like Sarah and I went, hey, we got 6 hours to do nothing. Let's just sit in this room all night and talk. And we got all that out at one time, and then we were friends. So so there you go.
Isn't that fun?
I wanted to really hit your. I called you in the marketing for this show tonight. I called you forensic psychologist. Now I know that that's something you do. That's what you do for a living. But we're also looking at you as a parapsychologist tonight. And I want to get your take because I put up yesterday this topic about communicating with the Fae and with the fairy folk and with the spirit realm, the elementals. And you said to me, just blurted out to me kind of, hey, I do that. I know some of the people that have done, and you've got some stuff to talk about. And I said, well,
I do.
I said, you said that in a public post. And I said, so come on the show tonight. So
I know. And I said that only because I get so excited sometimes at the closeness of like elementals and magic, because it really dances in alchemy. It's a place that it's like a cross-cultural place. You see so much of magic presenting itself, but people talking about it, but not really talking about it. But like it's in all the, it's kind of like pedophilia. It's like everywhere. And then once you see it, you see it. But like, that's kind of how elementals are too. Once you're out, and this is going to sound strange. And I think that you met this similar person too. Now, when I moved to Minneapolis, there was a man by the name of Kurt Hansen, and he was this old man. He used to dress up and do the ghost tours down at the Astor Cafe.
Right.
Dressed, and he went to all the Minnesota paranormal events and would dress with the top hat and the cane, and he was like a Freemason, so he had that group going for him, and he had the big long mustache, and he used to like do wild survival tours out in Antarctica, and now is doing ghost tours and stuff. Anyway, I used to go have coffee with this old guy, and he helped me know the history of the city I was living in. You want to know the real history of the town you moved to, Sarah? And I was like, well, yeah, he kind of reminded me of my dad, and I missed my dad at the time. So I said, yeah, Kurt, what are you going to teach me? And he took me into the tunnels underneath the Aveda Institute and underneath basically the old St. Anthony, Maine area there. And you go down, and we crawled like belly high in our waders. Came back later when I was pregnant with Brandon, actually with Kurt, right before he died. He died shortly after, man. But anyway, we were in the tunnels of St. Anthony, Maine. And I'm here with this man who's like an ex-Navy SEAL. He's like the real deal, kind of a weird guy. Straight-eyed me, turn around and goes, the Fae are out.
The Fae.
And I said, Kurt, what was that? What'd you say? The what? The what's out? The Fae are out. They're very mad about the construction.
Oh.
Now, guys, again, I work in the field of mental health, so I'm familiar with schizophrenia. I'm familiar with acid flashbacks when I hear it. This was different. This was slightly different. And he used to catch pictures of fairies on his camera. He used to come to the park with cheese and honey and things that he would get at the cafe, and he'd sit and he'd whistle through the blades of grass through his thumb like the natives used to do and that my dad used to do. And he used to just kind of sing and get into that space. He'd say, if you look up at the clouds and just kind of let your mind get into that space, you'll start to see them out of your peripheral. Like just these, but consistent with what people say about, like getting into that space. Yeah. And he started right before he passed, and I don't want to say it's an attest to his being at the closeness to the veil, but there at the end, very with it, by the way, but he had cancer, and he started making houses, like little houses to put back, not like bird houses, but like these really elaborate fairy houses that he would put up in the trees. And
Teresa in our chat room does that for the fairy houses.
That is so cool. It's so cool. And it makes me think of, growing up and having some of my family be indigenous and be separated from their culture and be desperately trying to replace it and be piecing the old stories. I remember this old story and like kind of like fusion, almost weird fusion.
Yeah.
My dad used to tell me about the pizza trolls, the little tables that you get in your pizza boxes that really are just keeping the cardboard up.
Oh,
he used to tell me this elaborate story of gnomes that, Pizza Huts were cutting down trees and the gnomes were angry and there was this futile like conflict going on. And so they hired the gnomes to live there, work there, eat there, get all the free ingredients they want. But their job is to sit on the table.
They build the tables for the pizza.
Yeah, that's for the pizza gnome, to make sure that the pizza gets there without any foreign ingredients. And when you open the pizza, the steam, you think it's pizza steam. Ha! Dumb muggles. It's actually the pizza troll. Quickly, everyone. Look,
right.
Everyone, all the kids are doing this,
Well, now, you know what you've just described? You've described how a lot of mythology takes place, how a lot of folklore begins. It's a story like that with your dad telling you a story. And
making sense of the space.
And a child might pick that up and pass it on to another child. And then, of course, eventually you go a couple of generations down and you've got these, did you know that what gnomes like to do is build little tables for restaurants?
Mm-hmm.
And that's the kind of the way that those types of folkloric stories begin.
And that's why that there's a 5-mile radius for Pizza Hut for delivery, is because that gnome has to be able to, they can only go that long before the sun rises. That's as far as their little feet can go. You wouldn't want the pizza gnome to die.
The story proliferates. It evolves along the way.
But there's a seed of truth in there, right? Is there always a seed of truth?
As one of my old seminary professors used to tell me, Dr. Raylingwood said, Scott, he said, at the core of every mythology is a kernel of truth. You go back to the headwaters and you find the truth that is there. And so your experiences, have you spoken with people who believe, now you've just mentioned the one guy, the old fellow who used to do the ghost tours in Minneapolis. And by the way, I've never visited them, but I've heard about the tunnels and all of this below St. Anthony, Maine. Now, St. Anthony, Maine, folks, you cross the river from Minneapolis and you get into kind of northeast Minneapolis. And right there, as you cross the bridge, was St. Anthony, Maine. It's still got the old cobblestone streets. It's very quiet. The old mill is there, the Milltown Ruins, which look like, if you want to see the Milltown Ruins, you go over to my webpage and look at the video John and I did for History Trippers. And we opened that video, we're walking through the Milltown Ruins in Minneapolis. And so all of this is there, and there's an underground there. There's an old part of the city there, which is very cool. But
it's very cool. And they say that those places like the Aveda and the St. Anthony, Maine, those tunnels, for bootleggers and people growing mushrooms in the 60s, which sure. But also back in the day, I mean, if the ground is too frozen to bury the dead,
they would put them in
the tunnels, put them in the basement, put them in the winery cell.
The Wabasha Caves over in St. Paul. You go down to the riverfront to the Wabasha Street Caves, and there's restaurants that they have in the outer portions of that. But those tunnels go way back, and they're carved out tunnels. You go back. I was in there just a few years ago, and they had blocked off the Wabasha Street Caves many years ago. Yeah,
because people were dying of carbon monoxide poisoning up in there. It was
interesting. You could get a peek in there where they had blocked them off, and it's stacked up with old debris. But you see like old Studebakers and old cars all packed up still today. It's still all there in the old, but these are the caves where they said Al Capone used to frequent these. There were speakeasies back there because they were right on the riverfront. And this was the rum running during the Prohibition era and all of that back in there. And they're very haunted. I went there. I was dating a woman at the time, and we went back in there. And she was clairsentient. She could feel the spirits. And I'm standing there with her.
She could feel the spirit.
Well, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But she she gripped my hand really tightly and said, I need to leave here. And her skin started to turn red. And she was so overheated. Now, you're laughing at that. You are somebody who has communed.
I am, just because
with
your
the
language
dead.
is so amazing. And if you could just, it just is. I had this girlfriend once and we went back into a tunnel and she was Clara. So, she could feel things and she grabbed my
She was
hand quite
furtive
tightly.
groping in the darkness.
It was perfect.
Yeah.
I just thought it was
and her
perfect.
skin
Anyway, go ahead.
grew all hot and
yeah, and then we grew hot and we must leave this place.
so
No, but in all seriousness,
yes,
for real. Yeah. And I mean, gosh, even some of the exploring that you and I and Rocky and people have done in and around some of the haunted areas and like St. Paul and those areas.
The gardens down in the fairy gardens down at the Renaissance.
Yeah. Well, and the native spaces of like very recent concentration camps.
Down below Fort Snelling, yes.
There's some places like that where you get.
Sarah was there with us.
Yes, I was.
She felt that.
I did feel that, but in seriousness, it's those where it's a rush of empathy. It's a rush of like, ooh, like you feel like your mom's standing behind you telling you to be quiet in church.
Yeah.
Like, whoa, like you don't even dare laugh because it seems sacred. It seems.
Well, not to recap and stay off the topic that we're talking about, but when we were at Fort Snelling, you would feel we turned on the spirit box in broad daylight. It's not like it was out at night and we had night vision cameras and we're summoning in the light of the full moon or whatever. No, we had broad daylight in the afternoon and we had the spirit box on out in the woods there. And Sarah was saying, I am feeling the presence of women and children, and there's singing and there's laughing and there's screaming. And we were picking that all up a few moments later on the spirit box. And that's where we got, you remember this on the spirit box. We said if there's, and folks, we're talking about where the concentration camp was in the 1860s down below the bluffs of Fort Snelling in Minneapolis. And they had a concentration camp there for the Lakota Sioux after the Dakota Wars in the 1860s. And they said that over 300 men, women, and children lost their lives there due to deprivation, starvation, the cold, and the elements there in this fort. But we got a voice that we were asking when Sarah was there, if there's any message that you would like to pass on to anybody, what can we tell them? And immediately a male voice came through and said, remember us. Remember that incident?
I do.
Remember us.
I do, because I remember I was sitting right there on that big tree trunk, and it was like 2:00 in the afternoon, and it was just a heavy, it was a heavy feeling, and I don't know if it's because I'm always desperately trying to connect to ancestry, or if it's because, I mean, like politically speaking, having recently been in situations where quite literally I'm apologizing for things that I didn't do, like racism and things. And then, and then spending time
I don't do
there
that.
At Fort Snelling, I didn't. And I ended up getting removed from the social workers of Twin Cities. So
those of you know what I'm referencing.
But anyway, I just think about just like within 48 hours of that time, we were down there on our knees in the dirt crying over something that had happened a few hundred years ago that we should have no connection to. And yet, I do feel connected to it, but it's not sorry for something I did. It's an empathy and a connection and a awareness for it.
Now, with all the connections that you make because of your gift, and I know you've had people or clients that have talked about this, talk specifically about connections to the Fae and the fairy folk. Have you, Sarah, have you ever seen or encountered or spoken with a Fae or an elemental spirit being?
I don't think that when I think speak, I think like you and I are speaking. I think of saying something whether it be English or, Dugabutch or, Parlez-vous français, or that we would be speaking in some way that I know what I'm saying, you know what I'm saying, and it's reciprocated understanding.
Right.
I don't feel like I've had that. Now, do I feel like I have seen something and it has seen me, or that I have left something out and it has been taken, or I have done something and felt a kind of retribution type energy from the forest and its personified tentacles, if you will?
Sure.
Absolutely.
Now,
And
retribution. Why retribution?
because I want to say that I use that word because of you having this consequence to something, whether or not you know that you did it. You kind of feel like there's this vengeance and an anger almost. Elementals seem to have this disharmony or dis-ease. Like sometimes when I get pessimistic about the human race and I see that we are very much a virus and that we do engage in deviant, painful, harmful behaviors on others and other organisms in and around us quite all the time without much care. And we know it too. But it's that incompetent knowing, right? It's that first degree Chauvin issue. Like we know, but we don't care, but that we know, but we didn't really think that we were intending to do it. We just neglected to give a shit.
What do you think? What do you think makes us? Because humans, we're part of nature.
Yeah.
We are part of the natural process of nature itself. And so, how can it be that we do things that would be so anti-nature or against nature? Wouldn't the things we do actually be part of nature? Only perhaps the good and the negative. The positive and negative sides of nature.
Ooh, I'm going to be in so much trouble for saying this, but because I'm an alchemist, I believe in all of what you just said. I believe that humans do play an absolute part in the natural order of the process of what it is to be here on Earth, and that we would play a great deal personified in the yang, and that we are the leaders, we are the music makers, we are all of the Willy Wonka things, right? We are the doers. We are the fire burners. We are the killers. We make love and we take things. And so in the essence of yin and yang, we do a lot more and we think a lot less. There's not so much introspection. A lot of it is hindsight, punishment. We burn our fields to make best next year. And that's just, we are part of the chaos. We do play a very integral role. And I think we're a part of the destruction.
Because, see, I don't know of any other animal on the planet that destroys the way we do. But I also don't see many other animals that have a court system or that will that have a police force. Now maybe that's a stretch there, because you do see animals that will police themselves.
Right.
But I don't see structures being built other than out of mud and things like that. But you know what I mean? We do see them building things. We do see them using tools, but we don't see the sophistication that humanity has to the extent that we have. Do they have banking systems? Do we have does the animal kingdom have retail stores?
Gosh, dang it. But Scotty, don't you think that some of those things are the doom? When I think of retribution.
Sure. But where does that come from? If we are of nature, how can we therefore do things that are not natural to do?
I think that because we are the part of chaos, that once we become, I'm going to again get in a lot of trouble for this, but
the chaos theory here. Okay.
Okay. But dare I say that if every 2,000 years, astrologically speaking, Pluto shifts and we see big civilizations turn over and things like that, we also start seeing in certain millennia, the human race just kind of seems to start over. Call it Noah's Ark, if you will. A few of us come back from Mars here and there, but we kind of seem to be that once we show up, we have a lot of babies, we expand, we colonize, we expand, we colonize, we expand, we colonize, we eat up all the resources and we move. We're very parasitic in that nature, and it's not symbiotic to the other organisms. I think we are kind of the cleanup crew. We're like a fungus. We're the plastic of the bigger organisms above us. We don't see. We are the trash cans of the bigger world. I really do feel like we play that role, and that we'll nuke ourselves out here in a few generations. It'll be back to people going, wow, look at this IDS building and look at these big structures they built, but where are all their tools? Where are all their things? All of our phones and stuff like that will have burned up. All of our books and all of our information and all the things we thought we knew will be gone. Our legacy and our likes online.
All the things that we save on databases and computers and all the things online you can purchase to save all your information. What happens when that grid goes down?
Right. It'll look just like Atlantis under the sea. It'll look just like the Mayan, the Nazca lines. It's going to look like all these ancient structures. It's going to look like the Egyptian pyramids that you've been in. Those things are high tech. Those things are serious. Those things are like equally ratio up and down and connected to the stars and like circumference of natural geometry. Like these people are far better at building structures than we are. We can't even build a road that lasts a few years without breaking down.
If I took this into the Fae, the fairy folk, there is, according to the folklore, they've moved out of the urban. So the more the urban sprawl gets, the more they move away from, because they don't like being in contact like that. And so to connect with them, you have to get yourself away from them.
Or if we want to be really creepy, because I know we don't have a whole, well, I know we have some time. Creepy. To be really creepy, like, so in some of the witch work that I do, right? Because I mentor witches and work with witches all over. And in some of these discussions, we even talk about like, well, why to dispel trolls or elementals are we seeing iron? Things like this, like that iron, in alchemy that repels, right? Well, that's the star killer, right? That's when you're looking at the periodic table. If you're looking at the sun, you're looking at radioactive, you're looking at the way that certain things move out in nature. You start to get iron near a star and it just, it's the doom. Will be the death of that. And ultimately the death of our star, our sun, would be detrimental to our earth. That would be something to recoil at for sure. And when you just think about the symbiotic nature of being kind of at one with the sun and the cycles and the earth, being able to camouflage, being able to be telepathic, being able to be like the fern system that freezes and is unseen. And whether it's the gnomes or the sylphs. And so then there's this honey, like, right, the bringing them honey to maybe not repel them, but maybe you want to sing to them. Maybe you're a Thecklin witch or something, or maybe you're not, maybe you're pagan. The kind of continued thought of bringing honey, something sweet, bring fruit or something sweet, sugar on bread. Yes. It's honey. Honey specifically. I mean, and think about the Egyptians on this one. Right? Honey is this antibiotic, antifungal. If you take the honey from your local area and you put it under water and shake it, honey, real honey, this is how you know if honey's real, by the way, or whether or not the honey you're buying is just flavored syrup. If you shake it under water, you will start to see the geometric hive shape. It'll tell you what kind of hive it comes from if you shake it. It's kind of like if you bang on a drum and the sand will show you what vibration the drum hums at.
We talked about that, sound vibrations.
Yeah, you can tune your instruments to the sound if you know what a certain sound should look like. They're all connected, right? And they all are consistent. And so you can see the hive. You can see if the hive is healthy. You can see if the water's healthy. You can see what kind of hive it is, if they're like, dangerous bees or if they're honey bees or this kind of thing, just from the honey that the hive makes. And you can also ingest that honey and be no longer have allergies in that area. So like if you're taking honey, very, very healthy for you.
Sure.
To the lore or the folklore, and I'm wondering if it goes back even to like Alexander Pope. I'm pretty sure it goes back to even like 16th century. It goes all the way back. You start seeing this, like, you need to make a child with that these elementals, they don't have a physical body.
I've heard some other theories on it. So go
Right.
Go ahead.
So, and I'm thinking also back to like Rosicrucian and like Freemasons, sacred scriptures, things that you're going to see in like Saint Caspian and different darker occult spaces, where if you're talking about manifestation of the body of the vessel, then you actually have to, you're not going to be mortal unless you create a seed with a human. And so if an elemental wants to be mortal or be immortal and create a soul, to go from the hive mind to no longer be symbiotic with nature and be of the hive, but to have consciousness, if that elemental wed, of course, like air conceptual permission of the vessel,
yes,
that you have sex or consummate or have a baby, that then you wed through permission. You're bringing an offering, something sweet of the land to tell you to say, I'm here, and you sing because this is my consensual. And it's going to be good sounds to connect and manifest. And you eat. And when you eat something, I'm eating with you. When we have a first date, it's usually, well, why go to a meal? Why not go to a movie? Because when you eat, it's intimate. Connected. You're swallowing, you're watching someone's mouth and the orifices and this kind of chastity of all the spaces. And anyway, this kind of idea that
you're using all trigger words for me. So just pardon me if I'm smirking.
But it's all of these things you see in scripture, you see in consummation, you see in all of these, it's all kind of cosmological, elemental. Yes. It's really everywhere. And whether it's the earth, water, air, fire. And I do love that in alchemy, right? But you also kind of have the 5th edition of spirit, or this is the child. And that if you have a child, then this invokes the ability for an elemental to come into the space. And that's why they might lure young women. Why is it always young women? And why is it always the sound of a baby crying?
You notice in the mythology or the folklore that the fairies, the fae, would always steal young children, usually young ladies and young girls. And they would steal them and take them because they thought they were beautiful. Now it sparked something in my mind about, and you've probably heard about this in Christian theology. There is that thought that follows the demonic that says they are always trying to take perfect human form, but God had disallowed them from being able to do this. Now, I'm not talking about this as something that is in my going concern or my belief, but part of the idea that you would only see the demonics with either hollowed out eyes, or they're always missing legs, or missing a limb,
a soul.
Something. It's because that's it. They weren't allowed to take perfect human form. Right. And that this is something that you will see manifest in people that actually encounter the demonic. And then there was also the idea that they were part of the process of trying to breed the perfect cross between humans and demonics. And this is why you had the incubus and the succubus, and you had the interbreeding always going on. And they would come up with, there was the old book of giants that they have found now in the Dead Sea Scrolls. This book of giants, where
giants and little peoples.
Yes, giants and little people, and how they were trying to constantly crossbreed.
And I don't mean when I say little people, I don't mean like willow, but I do, because pygmy translated to gnome or of the earth, small, like leprechauns, brownies, willow.
Yeah.
Right.
By the way, I just want to pause for a second and say, hey to Amanda B out there, and hey to some of the other people who've come in. If I didn't get a chance to say, hey, Sean Stroik, I see you out there.
Yeah, Teresa, Matt, Barbara, and Steph. Field guy.
And not acknowledging some of your posts in there, it's because I'm just engrossed in what Sarah has to say here. So.
Well, and someone said this is not a chat for under 25. Well, it's late, it's 10 o'clock, and you guys know our intentions are educational, but this is in that space for me when I think of alchemy, right? Because I know some people are Christian and some people are pagan and some people don't know what they think. And that's okay, because I really am all of those things. I tend to be more skeptical and objective, and I like to tend to think I err to a balanced space. But I like to think of it as, you know, in the paranormal, we have the electromagnetic spectrum that we're using, and we know that the visible light, gosh, the spectrum's big. Visible light so small. There's infrared, there's sound, microwaves, like all of this that now when I've seen puckwudgies, so let's go to like a specific example. Puckwudgies of the four.
Not to be confused with punkawallas. So, okay, the puckwudgies, go ahead.
I'm not familiar with a puckawawa.
A punkawalla is the person who would stand with the big fan and fan the king. That's a punkawalla. Anyway,
is that like a fluffer?
Nothing to do with this. Yeah, kind of like a fluffer. Depends on what kind of feathers you have.
Man, I got to get careful with my wordage then. But maybe a puckwudgie.
Puckwudgie, go ahead.
Earthbound, and when I say bound, humans are earthbound, right? Like we don't live in the water. Now we can on a boat, but we don't breathe. But
we're floating on the water. We're in the air. We live in the air.
Right. We are kind of these special, we're God's special creatures, right? And we are, and some people would say, depending on our blood type, especially hybrids from the Sumerians here to dig gold, which is why also
that's right.
All interdimensional creatures, elementals alike, love gold. Why is that? It deflects the sun's radiation. So we're allowed to have the sun and the sun giving energy and keep the energy, but deflect its
valuable for
harmful things. So anyway, it is important. We can travel intergalactically without getting too close to our star, and underwater when things are reflected and refracted and amplified, we're protected from its rays and things like that. But anyway, a whole other alchemy discussion. But in this puckwudgie space, earthbound, and so this family got a hold of me. And it came from, now my dad, he worked down at the Ford plant for a very long time in Kansas City, Missouri. So if you're someone who's worked at Ford or for any amount of time, you probably know my dad. And so when my first book came out, Haunted by the Abyss, he didn't know if he wanted to be proud of me or not, because he's a Southern Baptist and was kind of unsure of this whole paranormal Sarah thing. And somebody else had gotten word of it and said like, hey, is that your daughter? In the break room. And he was like, yeah, but he wasn't sure. And they were like, well, I got this story to tell you. And then they told him that in their retirement, they had spent all their money buying this piece of property. And that this is where they had already started building their house. They've already got their stuff there. They're living on a trailer. They're almost done, scheduled to be finished in a few months. But the wife is freaking out. And can you please have your daughter get a hold of her and calm her down, because there's something crazy going on. And I've even got it on video. Strange. And strange. And so I go down to Kansas City, visit my dad. We have to meet this guy in a parking lot because he's so scared to send it on the computer. He's paranoid. Wow. Right? It's really weird. Went and saw him, spoke with him and his wife, saw the video footage, spoke with the neighbors, and then reached out. Well, a few things are interesting. One, I'm always interested in, why are you taking this footage? Why were you out here filming just nothing? Because it's them filming nothing. They're like, we were surveying the land. This is where we were surveying, and we were going to be putting out, like, these are our videos of the before, during, and after of our building our dream retirement house. All right. And in there, this is our front. This is going to be where our front stairs are going to go. And they pan left to right. Huh?
So you can't really see them, but they're right here. This is where the stairs.
Go ahead. And then that's what she's doing. And she's like, this is going to be where it's at. And there's no reaction at the time. She didn't see it at the time. She's just talking to herself and panning. And she pans back. And so there's no reaction in the video. They're not out there filming for puckwudgies, but she's talking about how they're going to be building here. And a lot of the times in this footage, it seems like you get the most feedback and pretty consistent with elementals too, encroaching on their territory, whether it's the Fresno night crawlers or puckwudgies or gnomes or leprechauns or whatever. Man, you crush their mushroom circle, or you start going in there and building or something, and it's like freaking humans again, right? Just cutting stuff down. And I don't know, it's like in their path or what. But anyway, the footage is you panning back and forth, and right there, and it's kind of in a walkway, like a deer, like a natural path, like a natural pathway. Like in the paranormal, you're always hearing things on the staircase and in the hallway, hearing things in these natural breezeways. And you see something about 2.5, 3 feet tall, walk from left to right, stop and look, and then keep walking. It turns its head and looks at you. It's going, even though you don't see a face, you see the profile, the shoulders, the arms, the legs. Looks just like Predator with the camouflage. It looks like water. It looks like somebody.
Now, was that video you sent to me yesterday?
I did. I sent you one of them.
See, now I have seen that before.
I've sent it to you before because I've been working on this case now for 4 years, and it's continuation of children, being drowned on the property, killing children, taking children, children dying, and then
just as we found out at the festival site, the Renaissance Festival site, there are certain parts of the ground, certain areas that attract certain energy. Certain areas that out at the festival, it's the crossing of ley lines. Is out there. You get a lot of energy there. There's a lot of oak, old growth oak there.
Limestone.
Yeah.
Waterways. Ley lines.
Mm-hmm.
Earth phenomenon. Earth-related alchemy periodic table phenomenon. Like, there's not enough oxygen, we may not live, or there's a lot of radioactive stuff.
Yep. I may have a little glitch with Sarah over there. You've kind of frozen up on me, Sarah. So I'm not sure if you're gone or am I gone? I don't think I'm gone. I still see the chat room moving by. So, Sarah, if you are gone, let's get you to reconnect. I don't see you coming back in. We'll give you a minute here. So we'll see what happens with Sarah's video and her sound. There, we've got her back. Let me remove this one and get you back in here. Boom. There you are. Sorry about that.
It's solar flares, man. StreamYard's been doing that to me. It's something. I'm sorry.
No, that's perfectly fine. Just glad we got you back.
Yeah. But and I don't even know because I was on a roll talking about something, but the puckwudgies and just being and being crazy.
That's okay. Let's shift. Maybe this is a good segue to shift into something. Let's talk about how. Last night we talked about how you can attract the fairy realm to you, how you can open up to them, and I talked about there's some things I saw on some witchcraft sites. Some things I saw on other pagan types of sites that talked about, well, you go to the woods, you get away from the urban center, and you really go where you are drawn. If there's a place you are drawn to, go back to that place. Keep going to a place and spend a few times there. A place that you're comfortable, where you can sit down and you feel really drawn into that place. Now, it doesn't have to be mystical. It's not like oogie boogie stuff. But you could be just, I like going to this place. I like sitting here. I like this area of the woods, whatever it might be. You get comfortable with it, and then you do your thing there. You sit down, and you open yourself up. You meditate there, or you sing there, or you read there, whatever it might be. And you can open yourself up to the spirits that might be there. And perhaps you are being drawn there because they're okay with letting you know that they're there and that they make themselves known. Now, I have never seen a physical fairy, but I know people who have. So that say they've seen the fae, they've encountered them. And many times you want to, and maybe you do this too because of your profession, you want to look at that and go, You're a little tainted in the head, aren't you? You've been one too many times to the broom closet, or something like that. So, what's your thoughts on that? Can you? Sorry, that wasn't euphemistically making an attack against a witch, but
No, I like that.
One too many times to the broom closet. So,
well, and it's assuming that I'm not too glitchy and that StreamYard is going to let me talk.
So far, so good.
Okay. I like that because, of course, the broomstick and riding the broomsticks, and that used to be a dildo, and we used to put,
Oh, sure.
mushrooms and psilocybin and other things on the end of the mushrooms.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. What does that do for you, by the way, when you put those things on it? What's it supposed to do for you?
I'm assuming.
Let's keep it third party.
Sure. Not me personally, but the idea is just like anything sublingually or taking it topically, putting it in your bum or in another orifice. Maybe it gets it there faster. I'm thinking that maybe. I don't know.
Go ahead and talk for just a second.
What? Is it going to let me? So in that space, though, because no, I don't have any personal experience with that. I think that it is having your vessel, your body, be in a hypnagogic, meaning in a suggestive state, right? When you said go to a place you're naturally drawn, you could use your birth chart. You could see, are you a mostly earth, water, air, fire person? Usually you'll be drawn to a certain element. Put your feet in the water.
Can you tell what I am by looking at me? Am I an earth, fire, water, whatever, air? Gosh. Or do you have to look at the star charts like that? Can you look at somebody and go, oh, you're definitely, I just see fire in you. You are fire. I mean, is that what you do? Is it an intuitive thing, or is it strictly a mathematical thing by the stars?
It's a mathematical thing. It's weird. That's why in like the birth charts, they're taking your latitude and longitude, kind of like ley lines. You're also taking the time and place that you were born, because northern and southern hemisphere will matter. And then that's going to, of course, matter to what stars were. If I think back to the days of when I failed astronomy class because I thought that I would take it and it would be like astrology. And I was like,
no, astrology versus astronomy. Yeah.
A lot of math. And that one.
Way, folks, if you're hearing some extra sound, it was just Sam was in the end of the room, and he was playing over there on his phone. So that's what you're picking up. It's not the audio here on the show. So
a lot of math and astronomy, but they were like, if you're looking at Jupiter versus Mars, because neon burns red and this burns blue, and so if it's nitrogen or oxygen or carbon or these basic building blocks of our universe by the color that it burns through the filter that you see it. And I learned a lot in that space of like color therapy, because I was going through modalities of treatment and holistic healing. If you look at auras, Carillion photography, or Reiki and pressure points, and if you look at yoga and the red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet chakras, and I thought, interesting, astronomy and astrology, they are the exact same thing, but one is much more mathematical. And the birth charts, they break down your houses, and like me, I'm a Virgo, but I present, when that birth chart, it's going to break down like 9 different houses. Well, 12 different houses, really. It's going to give you 12. And then it's what's a percentage? Do you have 4 out of 12? Do you have 12 out of 12? It's going to break it down into earth, water, air, and fire. So then that's, 4.
Everything always comes back to math.
It's math. Blah, 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 blah. I don't love math, so you can go to astromatrix.com and it'll do it for free. It's a phone app you can get for free, and it's really easy. Astromatrix, Astromatrix. And it's a phone app. You can check, and the birth chart's helpful, because then if you're like, I have a lot of water in my body, meaning that when my physical vessel birthed out from water and amniotic fluid into the earth, into this dimension, and took in oxygen, that whatever was in the air upon my first breath, that was an imprint on who you are. And that chemically made up and
That's
imprinted
interesting.
you on the time and place for which you were born. You were born into an environment that was very
Very
earth, very water, or whatever.
Mhm.
And I usually can tell when someone walks in a room because, like, you are very talkative, but you also like to know things. So I'm going to assume you're either an earth or an air sign. And just because of the way that you talk, then it breaks down into whether or not you're passive, aggressive, or neutral. And that's cardinal, mutable, or fixed. And
See, I
so
would
those are,
look at you without knowing much about this stuff at all. As I say down here, at all. I would look at you and I would call you an earth sign because
I
to
am.
me, you're very earthy. You are very, you're grounded. You are, maybe you just said the talkative thing. You like to talk as well, but you like to know things. And
Yeah.
this to me is, it's not flighty. It's not hot. And it's not that you're not hot and exciting. I'm not saying that. It's
Right.
that you're not the fiery. I with the fire sign, I usually look at things that are, they're almost like warring. They're hot energy. They're moving and water. I don't see you as that. That's more subdued. It seems you're
Well, and
grounded.
think about the symbolic personified like frequency there that you're even talking about, like the four elements of fire. When you go back to like 16th century elementals, that's the salamander represented by the dragon, like breathing fire. But,
Right.
you know, the stories of, well, actually, if you're going out and grabbing, you know, fire from the old fire thing and you bring it in and you throw it on your campfire and your fireplace and
Right.
you're sitting there and it's crackling and you have this creature that's able to withstand despite their skin being thin and moist. There's this
Well,
creature that pops out of the fire at you on the floor and crawls up your leg. Ah! A lizard, a salamander,
salamander.
born of fire.
Ah,
And that you are like a dragon doing things, burning things, recycling things. And there are 3 fire signs in the zodiac, and those are those signs that do things, right? The Aries, the Leo, being bold, being courageous, and the Sagittarius in this space of what is it that you can do? And
that's
salamanders are enduring, right? Poison
yep.
people, kill you. They live through harsh environments. They endure. Whereas a mermaid, man, with your daughters and fin folk, you know all about mermaids.
Yeah.
Halfway in, halfway out. The
Yep.
irony that they're twins, half mermaids.
Yes.
That they are, water is intimacy, being connected by that which you do not always see, like a duck's feet under, right? You have this reference to a whole nother world. Maybe you're a conspiracy theorist and feel like that's space under there, down there, like The Abyss, that movie. But the beautiful woman would sing to you men, longing for love out on the ocean, wanting to get back to earth where you belong. And you look out fantasizing and you hear over the ocean, and you look into your reflection, introspection upon yourself. Ooh, will I ever make it back? I don't know. And you drowned and you go to your death.
Right.
That there are these beautiful mermaids, you know,
The siren.
pulling you down, the siren
Yes.
to your death. Water, you know, standing in a stream. Once you're halfway under, you lose your grip, you know, in that current. And all of these suggestions of intimacy and water, and that's how the elementals present in their spaces. The gnomes of earth, you know, freezing when the sun comes up, like dew almost melting when the sun is on it, it changes. And I don't know, the sylph, the air, the fairies, these, I always think of the beginning of The Labyrinth with Jennifer Connelly, and ouch, and him going, well, what did you think they'd do? And she goes, I don't know, grant wishes and things. So shows what you know, right? Because a genie, a sylph, something of the air, something that would manifest as a cloud, or if you're in tarot, you know that air magic is, be careful what you wish for. Are you sure that's what you said? You only get 3. Are you sure? Like air is where you get torn down. And that is, of course, funny, shows what you know. That again, Jim Henson is a witch Because you go back and you listen to that language. That's what air magic asks you. If you're a Freemason, what do you know? Archangel Raphael. How do you know that? How do you know that? Shows what you know. If you think that fairies do that. And I think fairies.
What's your favorite color?
Right? Right? They're always asking us things. There's always questions.
Yes.
There's always trickery. And it's always meant to make you know what you know. Like the oracles.
Yes.
Run a trail. You know, air. They're tricky that way because you have to know yourself. If you don't know yourself, then you can't get through or navigate. It's that uncertainty and being able to communicate. If you can't communicate with someone, there's a lot of uncertainty. And I like how the elements present and how they're personified, because even, I don't know, I grew up with Fantasia too, so that probably is highly suggestive to me. But like when I see fairies or halflings or all sorts of elemental creatures out there, right? I think of them being hybrid with Earth, and I see all of the spectrums of the electromagnetic fields that we just aren't seeing. And I imagine it's like pitch black. I imagine that if you put on glasses, like those people that can't see color until suddenly wearing these, that we would put on glasses to see all the other parts of the electromagnetic spectrum and see that there are creatures all around us.
Well, what do you think of like when they do, now this is not the topic, of course, with rabbit trailing severely, but like ayahuasca and some of the hallucinogens where they see the great snake and this has been a common theme, and they see these things, and while they're under the influence of those things, they constantly see this world around us that you cannot see. Is that just what's the word? Imagining, mirages. What's the word I'm looking for?
Delusions, hallucinations.
Hallucinations. Is it just hallucinatory? Or is that something that they really can see? And there are those who are advocates of that, like, say, Graham Hancock, huge advocate of this. Joe Rogan. Some of these people.
Rogan. Well, and now, you know, there's a lot of microdosing and things that are done that, as far as this is going to be hard, so I don't want to lose anybody in the space. But I mean, as in the mental health community, it's being called the spirit molecule, but DMT and a lot of like the tryptamines and the things that instigate pineal activity, or they instigate psychedelic experiences, whether it be visual or auditory or kinesthetic, all the ways in which we have learning channels and learn when we're not high, when we're not under a certain controlled substance. But I mean, as far as conspiracy theory goes, you're kind of always hinging in a gray area, because, I mean, is there a bunch of lithium in the air? Yeah.
Right.
Are there a bunch of ions we should be measuring at a paranormal investigation because we know carbon monoxide, dioxide, oxygen levels, methane, smells, these things matter? Yes. Saging is not just for good smells. Lilac bushes aren't just pretty things. They're symbolic of a frequency, of a gift, of a time, of a probably miscarried babies. For a lot of indigenous tribes, they line up their lilac trees for miscarried babies, but also to ward off evil spirits because of the pleasant aroma. And it's like you kind of have to know certain things or be seeing certain things as it's happening. And if you're not drinking coffee, smoking weed, breathing the air at that time, you weren't there, you didn't see it.
Right.
You may not be able to say it's real. And DMT and other hallucinogenic things, substances, controlled or not, I mean, even like salvia and like short-term burst things, they heal people, they remove pain, they change the body. They allow people to go from being in a state of constant seizures to non-seizures, or to having, you know, adrenal responses to non-adrenal responses, or having Addison's disease and being victimized by their body to being liberated from their body.
You know,
so to say it's not real, it's real.
Yeah. And what did, first of all, I saw Matt Finn said something here. Hold on a second. I think it was Matt. No, it was Scott Allen said the fluoride in tap water.
Oh yeah.
Calcify the pineal gland.
Yeah.
And Teresa said, go ahead.
Well, I mean, that really gets into some crazy conspiracy theories of like the fluoride in the water, the lithium in the, and the dumbing down of America, and like Bill Gates and the people getting rid of and interjecting these things to desensitize us. And in truth, I do think there is some of that, because if you go into, getting back to elementals, if you go into a space, a lot of indigenous tribes that are believing that spirit journeys, if you're taking, having your great initiation, you have to be able to mind your ego, navigate the other dimensions, know what you know. And working with someone in the mental illness, gosh, oftentimes we're saying, is this drugs? Is this paranormal? Is this not? And they do this. If you see someone take a bunch of shrooms or DMT, and it's their first time and they have a real structure issue with their ego, and they just don't have a lot of maturity and they don't have a good support system, sometimes that's the psychosis that you see. And that's the crack addict that finds themselves living on the Hollywood streets for the rest of their life. That's like at line at the Dollar Tree store talking about Titanic going down, and they're never coming back. They're never coming back. They've had too much K2 spice. They're never coming back.
Yep.
And that's why it's like, well, so what was it then? Was it the drugs? Well, yeah. Or was it the person? Well, that too. Well, was it how they did it? That 3. Like, there's a lot of variables, which is why we can't say that it is or it isn't, but we also know that it's influential. So, by the way,
there it is.
Hallucinogens, so it's hard for me to speak from experience.
Yeah.
I've only ever done whippets. So
I haven't done much at all with any kind of, official hallucinogen. I haven't done shrooms. You could say marijuana, but that's not really a hallucinogen.
No.
That doesn't mean I don't think funny when I'm smoking it. But as the people listening to this show know so well, we did a show a couple of weeks ago where I took a couple of hits at the behest of my young son here. And and it turned into a couple of more hits, and we did almost a 3-hour show that night. So we'll just leave it at that. But I wasn't hallucinating, but I was certainly loopy. So that was supposed to be a quick joke, and I drew it out too long.
Well, I've never struggled, and I work in forensic psychology, and I've never really had offenders or struggled with someone in like a domestic response or a crisis with marijuana. That's just not my experience. And so for me, that's not one of those that I consider to be something that's going to be profoundly changing or restructuring your world in a way that makes you question everything. It actually typically makes you a little bit more lighthearted, if anything. But I get scared. And so I know, coming from a place of like trauma, that I would, if I couldn't be conscious and sober and back to my structure that I know immediately, if I couldn't have that control, I'd probably really have a panic attack, which is precisely why I wouldn't. And people say, like, shamans are like, you're not ready. You must be ready to let go. And it's like, if I saw my stepdad coming down, chasing me in a clown mask or something, I'd probably have a panic attack. Like, I can't help it. I'd be scared. Like,
I'll tell you, I don't like to drink a lot. I don't smoke a lot of pot. I don't have any problem with it. It has to be the certain type of occasion to be able to do that. I don't like to lose control of my faculties, my mental faculties. I want to know why I'm thinking what I'm thinking. I've said some pretty stupid stuff when I've either been drunk or I have been under the influence of the devil weed. I say things. My inhibitions are gone. I say things to people I shouldn't say. And, it's happening.
Then don't do that.
Yeah.
And somebody in the chat room was asking what the app was that I use on my phone. So I just wanted to show that really quick to make sure that and I didn't want to give you all of my birth information. Come on.
Astromatrix.
Yeah. And here, I'll show you it looks maybe Here, hold on. I'm on YouTube, not StreamYard. So let me get back to StreamYard.
There you go. There it is. Astrometrics. It's got like a Saturn
Matrix. Yeah, it's purple with a gold Saturn, and it's cool. Free, and it's really cool. And as far as like elementals go and keeping in mind, you put your birth report in there, and then it's fun because then you can look at like other people's charts. I have my children in here, and you can parent accordingly or avoid your spouse accordingly. It makes it nice and easy.
I just looked up the site, and this is it right here. If you want to, I'll just put a link in the chat room.
Yeah, they should pay me.
If you're interested in that, there it is. And,
they should pay me.
Yeah.
They'll never pay me. That's okay. Yeah, I'm a Virgo with a lot of Libra. I'm a Virgo, Libra. So for all those people wondering, like, what are you? I'm a Virgo, Virgo, cool. Libra, moon, sun, rising. So that'll teach your alchemy symbols as well.
Now, how does it figure that out? It gives your
birth, your where.
Give us a moment while we find out more about you.
Right, your birth chart. They've got to know where you were born and the time and place. So that's why you're dealing with a witch if you're like in the young dating scene and someone's like, oh my God, your birthday, you're a Leo. Well, where were you born? In the morning or night? Like, do you know when? That's a whoop, whoop.
I don't know any of that stuff. People say, well, I'm a Virgo because my house was here and I did this and that. And they're like, well, what are you all about? And I go, well, I don't know.
I was born at North Kansas City Hospital. Born at North Kansas City Hospital in Kansas City, Missouri.
Yeah, I know what my birth date is. That works. I was born at, what's this, 4? I'm just putting this information in.
Yeah, do it.
Tells me in a superficial. My mom said I was born at 4:09 a.m.
Oh, in the morning? You're a morning baby? Okay, so then that'll be a dark night sky, the sun. Ooh.
Enter birth town. I was Cincinnati.
Ohio?
Oh, yeah.
Really? You're born from Ohio?
Ohio. My current location, I mean where I'm sitting right now.
Somebody said what day in August, Sarah? I was born on the 27th of August.
I'm in Lake Charles, Louisiana. It's a horoscope.
Every breath you take.
It says here's what it says. Confirm user details. It says I'm a Sagittarius sun, Aquarius moon, and Libra ascendant.
Ooh, okay.
So I have no idea what any of that really means.
That means you present as an asshole, but you're secretly concerned of what people are thinking about you, and that a fire sign. Your sun sign. The sun is, you walk out and you see the sun, like like the sun, like the circle of light. It's what you present. It's your ego. It's what people see. It's what you wear on it's how you dress. It's how you, and you're brazen. I do this. Look at all the things I've done. Look at all my things. Look at all the stuff I can publish. And all the things. So that would be fire. But then your moon is secretly what you're dreaming at night. I hear the secrets that you keep, because that's your moon sign. And so your moon is like, what you really feel. And so your moon sign was a what?
Libra was the last one.
Okay. So Libra.
Wait. Moon sign was the second one. Now I don't remember what it was. Was it? It's not up on the screen anymore. So let me just see.
Well then, Libra. And that's an error. That's being really concerned about what everyone else is doing. That's wanting to speak up for other people and and fairness. And also like that would explain the you and John Ward kind of thing going on, you and always needing that person to go out on a limb with, and that symbiosis with others and collaborations and networking and speaking and podcasting and storytelling and the reciprocation of air and knowing what people like. And there's a hair on me and it's going to be in my coffee.
Okay, here we go. it says it's giving. I clicked on the summary in that, and the summary over there says my sun is Sagittarius, my moon is Aquarius,
Air, still.
my ascendant is Libra,
Air. Care about
my
other people.
Mercury is Scorpio.
Okay. You talk like a poisonous scorpion. You are your venom and anti-venom with your words.
So let me charm you with my words.
Yeah.
Venus.
Your love.
Is Capricorn.
Oh, that means you like to think about sex. You like to have smart. I mean, Venus is your intimacy. Art
like
must be thoughtful.
Yeah,
has to have content.
I don't just say, "Show me your boobs."
Right.
I give you good reason to want to ask me to ask you to show you.
Right.
So, yeah, that's exactly what that is. Mars, it says, is my Cancer retrograde.
Ooh, that's the will to fight. Mars is your, coming over the hill like Braveheart wearing a kilt.
Okay.
And yours is Cancer. So yours is you're going to fight about water. You're going to fight about emotional things. You're going to fight about your feelings. You're going to fight about, well, that's not what I meant. And I didn't mean to make you feel that way. And I'm sorry that you feel that way. And you're going to actually fight about feelings versus, God damn it, fix that, things or neighbors or something. You're going to be fighting about feelings, which is kind of weird.
Well, my life path is 5, the Explorer. I don't know what that is. We just came off of Mars. My life path is the Explorer.
Yeah, you got to be out doing things. That makes sense. It's related to alchemy and the Enneagram and the 12 archetypes of the zodiac. And the Explorer is all about liberating thyself and connecting to others. It's also the opposite of the Lover.
It's sure nice to have you explaining this to me here because I would have no idea what it meant. My guiding planet is Mercury. Quick mind, it says.
Well, Mercury is the closest to the sun, and it moves really fast and it spins really quick. And it's communication, but it's also wit. So that's why when people go like, Mercury's in retrograde, crap, it means that you're going to say dumb things, that your printer's going to break, communication's going to be shitty. And so communication.
I have that happen all the time. So I'm like, is Mercury always retrograde?
Well, the fact that your life path is Mercury and that's so vividly important in your life, and the fact that you're a storyteller, you're an author, that your legacy will live in how you write, and that you like to pontificate, well, and that would speak volumes, I think, in your astrology. So that would make sense. I mean, that would make sense. And I'm not really, an astrologer per se. I just more in the psychology realm. This is one of those, I have a busy mind. So if I'm showing up to crisis and I only have so much information, like on a case, you may only have like very basic census information, like their name, their date, their this or that. And so we don't want to profile because that's a naughty word, but that's exactly what you need to do if you're showing up. And so to be able to profile by someone's birthday, I thought, gosh, you're not giving me much information. If I've got to show up and save this person's life, and all I have is their name, their date of birth, and that they are on trazodone, then I'm going to look up their birthday. And I've learned quite a bit about it. And there's some relevant information that's very helpful.
I have this, there was something you hit on, and I have this great fear of having no legacy. And I don't mean that from a prideful, egotistical, narcissistic point of view. I mean, it's from the idea of being forgotten. There was something, and this just came into my mind, so it has to be a picture that must have put a deep crease in my brain. I was watching a Star Trek movie, of all things, and it was this is from the movie The Search for Spock. It was after Spock dies in The Wrath of Khan, and then the next movie, they're searching.
The Wrath of Khan.
And there was something with the man who played his father, Mark Leonard, Spock's father. And he said something to Kirk. He's doing a mind meld with him because he's looking for Spock's katra, his essence, his being. And he says it's customary with Vulcans to touch at the time of death, and they pass their katra on to somebody else. Now, without getting into the lore of Trek, but what the impression that was made on my mind in that scene, he's doing a mind meld with Kirk, And
Yes.
he's finding that there is nothing of Spock there. And he said, "Did he touch you at the time?" And he said, "No, we were separated by the glass." And he said, and then the music got very kind of just a one tone, kind of a little minor key, a little very melancholic. And he says, and Spock's father, he leans back and he's got his hand still in the air, touching Kirk, and he says, "Then everything he was, everything we knew, is gone." And that little scene made an impression in my head. Apparently, that I didn't know was there till just now, because it came up as I'm talking about this. Is that idea of having everything I was and everything anybody knew about me, other than my immediate family, and to have absolutely nothing left of me behind when I'm gone. This is why I write books. This is why I draw pictures. This is why I talk on this show. Some of that, to me, I've said to people, this show, I said, I don't give a flying rat's ass what people think about it. This is me. This is who I am. This is like my memoir being written as it's happening, are the shows I do. That's why I talk about my family. This is why I talk about my experiences. This is why I, even at the beginning of the show, reciting how you and I met and that we're friends and we've been friends. This is all part of who I am. And so I'm sorry to get off on that wild rabbit trail, folks. But as I look at what you're talking about, this whole thing of what was it? It wasn't the
profiling of astrological energies, because I mean, essentially, the personified versions of the four elementals, the gnomes and the sylphs and the undines, they are branches of alchemy, which are branches of the yin and yang, which are branches of the four gospels, which are stories that the Bible is telling us. And even in that, like Star Trek, I feel like that very much is an illustration of what we can maybe look forward to, of other species that we share. And I think of, for me, neurolinguistic programming is one of the tools that I also love because of interrogating and interviewing and talking with people. And when I think about you and your legacy, I think of your past lives and your connection to the Egyptian theology and your Ka, and that, that which will live beyond you. That if you have an unmarked tomb, if nothing is written about you and there's no glyph on the wall, then you are unspoken. And if you are unspoken, you are unknown. And if you're unknown, then you're no longer living outside of the vessel. And you aren't. And that's true. And even like, Ka, and that's Ka, but, Khan, and it's a closeness, and thinking that's like, Lord. It's usually people are militant in that position. Usually it's always someone of a great hierarchy because it's Lord Prince. But the fact that the word is Lord Prince, this, Lucifer or angel, fallen angel, your legacy, your fruit, your kin, your Khan, and that which will live beyond you. It's important. You have a lot of children. You have a lot of published works. I don't think you have anything to worry about. But yet you probably will still feel a yearning about it. You might be making up for that concern in a previous life, maybe. Who knows? It's kind of a cool thing to think about.
It's very interesting. My friend Ruben Fasthorse, I don't know that you've ever met him, but he's my Lakota friend.
Yeah, I've watched and talked with him, but I've never gotten to like touch him or see him in person.
You guys together on
his
the show.
I've never touched it or known it. I've only heard it. Yeah.
Yes. And it's interesting. He said to me just tonight, he said something on a post that I put up, and he always calls me Chia, which is older brother, and I call him Misu, which is little brother. And he said to me something along the lines of, and I don't know, because we're not talking about death or anything like that, but he said, in essence, the unspoken part was, there will be a day when. He says, we will walk together the ghost road. And he said, that's the Milky Way. And according to the old Lakota mythology, you walk the ghost road after death, and you meet the old woman, who in a sense weighs like in the Egyptian lore, your Ka and your Ba. And she will determine whether you will go on the ghost road or whether you will be sent back as a shade. And so it's very interesting. He said, we'll walk the ghost road together. And so to me, that's very interesting stuff. Oh, and I
what's the what is it in? And I always want to smack my mouth for never knowing remembering this.
My mouth.
It's the Crystal Shard Highway from the Nine Realms in the Nordic.
Oh, I don't know.
Asgard has the Rainbow Bridge.
Okay.
Shard Bridge, right?
What's
it called?
I'm weak on that.
Brandon.
I don't know.
What's the bridge in Asgard?
What?
The bridge that Thor walks down. Yeah. I don't know either. Usually he remembers those things.
I don't know.
Somebody will know in the chat room. Right. The collective consciousness will know. But I think about the Milky Way. I think the frozen water, and then some of the mind, body, spirit, and the layers and the firmament and the globe and the dome and the water being the sky and the Milky Way, the galaxy of life, the red string, the red yarn, the mother, the maiden, the crone, the passage of the frog through the moon, the Bifrost. Thank you. The Bifrost, two-way water. When water becomes hard and that water would keep memory. And like you watch Frozen 2 as a shaman or alchemist or something, because I know you've seen that movie 100,000 times probably with your daughters.
Which one?
The Frozen 2.
Oh, yes.
And that what's that one thing where water remembers everything? And oh, that's right. And it's like all the elementals and the salamander, the little fire. He looks like a little salamander.
I've only seen that one once. I've seen the first one 100.
What? Man, you should, smoke a doobie with Sam and watch Frozen 2 and as an adult spiritual being and watch it and think, wow.
I'd be happy to do that.
They really are teaching some amazing, or the movie Soul, the new one Soul. I mean, all of these
Soul
are really
I saw Soul. That was
teaching
amazing.
some cool and all the same stories, by the way, whether you're Hindu or Christian or pagan or alchemy or quantum mechanics, wave or particle, the Bifrost, and the fact that it would be the Milky Way and in the sky that we're seeing taking us the ghost road beyond the veil. It's just so
Soul,
all talking
Scott
the same
Allen
thing.
said it in the chat room just now. Soul is fantastic. It was quite a for a cartoon. Kids, it's a cartoon for adults.
And I can appreciate that because some of the kid stuff has gone downhill, but some of it's really cool. So I'll take that one. And as far as I love elementals. We could talk about these forever and always because I think about like Spiderwick Chronicles as kids shows. My kids kind of always thought that I was a little weird for keeping dead things in jars and my witchy things until you watch the opening of Spiderwick Chronicles or something, and they're like, "Look, Mom,
that was a good
his
movie.
stuff looks like
a lot
your
of fun.
stuff."
My kids like that.
It's like I know it's because we're witches, and so it's cool, and it's cross-cultural stuff too. So you don't have to worry about you being right or wrong. You just get to learn about what other cultures have, and there's black fairies in Africa. There's nymphs and sylphs and my husband's like, why would they have different colored skin? And I was like, because of he was saying it's would it be geographical at that point? Because it's environmental based. It's like, well, of course it is, because that's how it is with humans, really. It's like, but is it anymore? Well, not so much. Well, would it still be with them? That's weird. They're an extension of their environment. So I would assume we really aren't extensions of our environment.
The color of skin is not race.
No,
it's nothing to do with race because we're all one race. So
human race
is geographic. It could be
right. When I think of like the melanin or the the Nordics or elementals coming from this way up in this spectrum, you know, and then being down here because you're so close to the equator and the heat and the hot and the sun and the periodic table is different. The space is different. The air is different. The humidity is different. The content of you is different. And the elementals surely are that way too. I don't know. It's kind of cool. It's exciting. So we have a lot to learn about all sorts of elementals all over, and wherever people are in the chat room. I know there's tons of people joining us, but it is 11 o'clock. So it is going to hop off here and let you.
One thing I was going to tell you before we got off of the Milky Way time. My friend Ruben, as many people who listen to the show know because I told them all about it, he wants to adopt me officially into the Lakota tribe, and Sam as well. And he gave me a name. He has to name me.
Yes.
And the name he gave me in the Lakota is Wa'onspea Wagakea. Wa'onspea Wagakea. And he said it means to him like higher wisdom, higher being wise, being higher up, and a higher wisdom. That's how he described it to me. He said there's not a direct translation. Wa'onspea Wagakea. And so that is going to be, when I'm adopted into the Lakota tribe, maybe this year sometime, that's going to be the name that will be legally given to me. And I will legally be part of the Lakota.
No, I have to tell you a story really quick then before I jump off, just so that people know the truth of Paranormal Sarah here. And that, so this recently came up in our family because I have a 9-year-old and a 7-year-old, and my 7-year-old was really upset. He wanted my 9-year-old's spirit animal and was like, well, this is my spirit animal now. I was like, well, you don't just get to pick your spirit animal. And then we got into this big whole deal, or my husband was like, yeah, you can do whatever you want. And I was like, well, not really. You know, my ancestors, my nanny and the Cherokee and this, they already gave my children names. Like my grandmother, nanny, grandma already gave my children when they were born, already gave them their animals and their Cherokee names. And that's what they were just going to be. And I was like, oh, and she had to meet them first. She had to smell them and meet them and touch them and then give them their name. And they have these really cool names and cool spirit animals. And then people, of course, asked about mine. And I get a little, because, you know, I am not full-blooded Cherokee by any stretch. And so when I was hanging out with Nanny Connie growing up and we'd go to the reservation, I had to sit on the stoop, the Wasichu stoop. And that's where I sat. And my name became Huckabuck, which is not a real Cherokee word, which is perfect for a Wasichu, but it's a slang word. This is so embarrassing, Scotty. I can't believe I'm sharing this.
No. Please do.
I was very young and I was sitting on the Wasichu step, and I was sitting there with this big burly Indian man, some of the old sitting out to watch. I believe that was a casino gambling, but I won't say for sure what was going on. But anyway, sitting there, and you know how dogs, when they have worms or just the spring, they're scooting their butt on the ground.
Yes.
Right. I'm a little girl, about the age of your little girls, and I'm like, what is the dog doing? And I used to get
scooting his butt.
Huckabuck, a jump dance of the dog. And I started laughing and they kind of made up this word, the huckabuck, and I started laughing. And so then they began to say that to me and I would laugh. So then she'd take me to the reservation. They'd say that to me and I'd laugh, and they'd huckabuck and I'd laugh, which means dog that scratches butt on ground. And so, that huckabuck. Is I'm Huckabuck. Songbird Huckabuck, because my mom was a singer, but I don't think songbird dog who scratches butt on ground is as wonderful as your wise Lakota name. So I just want you to know upon your initiation that your name sounds wonderful, and that I rarely tell people my given name because as most nicknames are. It was given to me against my will.
There was purpose. There was meaning. Well, Hucklepuck, it's been very good having you on the show tonight.
Right.
Why don't you tell everybody where they can find your stuff?
Yes, you can find me at paranormalsarah.com. I do a lightly political, I say politically moderate. We're fun. We're kind of middle of the ground show Monday through Thursday at noon Central Standard Time, so it won't conflict with any of the Scotty Roberts shows. But I find all of sarah.com.
Paranormalsarah.com. Go ahead and type that in the chat room too, if you would.
I sure will. www.paranormal.com. And it's Sarah with an H. It's the biblical Sarah. I was destined to be a witch, a princess, if you will. And so, yeah. So you will and can find me there. Or just at Sarah, the paranormal Sarah. You'll find me somewhere. But to hear from you guys. And thank you so much for having me, Scotty. It's such an honor to be on your show.
Great having you here tonight. And
tell your wife happy birthday.
I will do it.
Right?
It's her birthday for another hour.
That's right. So happy birthday. And you guys have a wonderful, what is tomorrow? Friday. Heading back to the Twin Cities tomorrow. Be safe. Be crazy. Hold your hats. Don't let the bed bugs bite. All right, guys. Good night,
darling. See you later. All right, folks. That was Sarah Soderlund. That was a great show. A lot of fun. I want to thank you all for being here. I see there's a lot of people who've come in. I didn't really take a chance or the opportunity to go over and say good evening to you all, but I'm glad you're here. I see some of you. I was able to say hi along the way, but if I missed you, it's not for any other reason other than I was deeply involved with Sarah's stories and what she was talking about. We have to have her on again. I'd love to have her and Ruben on at the same time. I think that would be very interesting conversation going. So it was good to have you all. It was Project Skyfalls I saw was in here. I don't think I know who you are. I think I've met you before, but I want to thank you for being here tonight and coming in and checking out the show and listening to what's going on. I'd love to hear what you had to say. I think you said something about the Fae and the fairy folk and the abduction experiences being something that are very similar to each other. So we'll have to explore this some more. And folks, everybody, sincerely, thank you for being here tonight. I appreciate your time. I appreciate the fact that you would take your time and spend it here with me. So at that, I'm going to send you on your way. I'm going to be gone tomorrow night because we'll be traveling back to Wisconsin tomorrow night. And we probably will not have a Sunday morning show either. So I may not see any of you again until Monday of next week. And remember, this show, every Monday through Friday, 9 p.m. Central Standard Time, 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. out west. So no Sunday show, no show tomorrow night due to travel. And so we'll see you again next week. And in the meantime, you know what? Live long and prosper. Love you all. Thanks for being here.
You're listening to the Intrepid radio program with Scotty Roberts. Intelligent Talk.